Societal Schism. It's in a new article by Christopher Blockman in Interview magazine about 1980s club bouncer Howie Montag. Social schism. There's always a hierarchy baked into culture. It means someone is always marginalized. Many people talk about lifting people up, lifting up the lowly, and casting down the oppressor. If you're not one of the lowly, you probably have a lot to lose. It's the 1 year anniversary of my being dragged into court by Fourth Pres. And I also got a call from Ruby Bradford again this week. She's still upset that I couldn't do more for her last week. If you do things that's not worth your time, people are going to take advantage of you and then hold you liable. Many people claim to know Jesus, but I suspect heaven is going to be a very empty place. Welcome. Welcome to Sunday Coffee Hour. I'm Stanley Smith. At Sunday Coffee Hour, we talk about everything and nothing. This Sunday, we talked about being a lifeguard, private versus public corruption, forgetting the past, and having a long-term relationship with illness. The readings at Washington National Cathedral were from Isaiah. There's no partiality between being deaf and blind. And from James, you'll never be dragged into court by a street person. The gospel reading was from Mark. Christ was partial to who he cured, but not for what he cured. The sermon at Washington National Cathedral was by Jan Cope. Jan preached about faith. What does a life of faith mean to us as an individual and as a church? Is faith a noun or a verb? The words we use and the actions we take, and the noun and the verbs of having faith. At the end of our lives, we'll have to ask, what was the moral of the story? Jesus was always more interested in the moral of the story and not so much with minding his manners. We all want to be a nice person. Being nice is good manners, but it's not always moral. Being egalitarian is moral, and hierarchical is always being partial. Showing partiality individually and communally is the root of all marginalization. Someone is lifted up at the expense of another. Christ came to be everything to a small group of people, but he upset their manners by speaking to everyone for everyone's benefit. Christ led the perfect life of faith by being the noun and the verb. He wasn't trying to please anyone. He was crucified for being a verb when people were looking for a noun. Jan said, we can make a big impact in small ways. Whether you're a member of a small church or a large cathedral, you can take the first step by being impartial about who is included. Empty pews can become full. Jan said at Washington National Cathedral, you can click on the Congregational Life tab and see all the ways you can be involved. If you have an idea, contact the cathedral. The cathedral is not in business because they have a lot to offer. They're in business because they know you have a lot to offer. We can't exclude you because we don't even know who you are yet. At St. James, the sermon was by Lisa Hackney James. Lisa preached about the rules of asking. We exclude ourselves before we even get started. We have a lot of qualifiers to how we define God by what he's not going to do for us. Then we have rules on top of rules to marginalize other people, rules for us and rules for them, rules for those other people. How dare they even ask? Jesus was just as sexist, misogynistic, and xenophobic as we are. He used it as a way to show that morals are more important than manners. Lisa said they're going into the deep water at St. James. They wonder if maybe they've bitten off more than they can chew. Did they ask for it, or did God give it to them? Like the beggar on the street, we'd rather say, have a nice day, but that really doesn't fit the bill. Is this our marginalized selves or our core performance selves? God only knows. And he's the one we're asking. I've been going to St. James now for 10 years. I didn't ask for it, but I was literally dying on the vine at Fourth Pres. I'd sneak out after a coffee hour and run over to St. James just to hear a real sermon. I was an infiltrator, and I still am. When I first moved to Chicago, I had in mind that becoming an Episcopalian was the thing to do, but the Presbyterian Church was just around the corner. I tell people if there had been a synagogue next door, I'd be Jewish now. It's literally all the same to me. God created the world good, and it still is. We misperceive it and create culture and social mores to navigate the misperception. In Vince Packard's book, The Status Seekers, he outlines class status by belonging to a club with dark wood, being Episcopalian, and if someone throws up at a cocktail party, to just ignore that it ever happened. It's easy enough to follow the script. Christ did half-heartedly, not because he cared, but because it isn't that hard to do. It's the convention of being human. It's only problematic when we start to believe our own bullshit. Christ never did. That's why he's the perfect model. And that's just the same reason why a homeless person will never drag you into court. If you would like to join us at Sunday Coffee Hour is every Sunday at 12 noon Central Time on Zoom. I will include my email in the description of this video. Be happy to send you an invitation. And I look forward to seeing you very, very soon.